Hey, good Sunday morning to everyone out there. How'd you do with the time change? I hope you're up and around and you're enjoying the fact that we got an extra hour in there. So, hope you can get up and get around and come to church. And I'm going to tell you this now so I don't forget it. If you get a chance while you're watching, if you like Sunday school, please push the like button so we can help the church. Thank you for that so much, and thank you for tuning in and watching. Okay, we have been in Matthew, the 25th chapter. But before I start on Matthew 25, I want to ask you to pray for some special people. And this week, Johnny Berry lost his dad. Uh, just such a hard and trying time. Um, Jackie lost her grandpa. And then, of course, we have Lisa and Ramona who are taking treatments, and they just need your prayers. So, also remember Wayne, and we just appreciate it very much if you would just think about them this week. And when you pray, just pray for those people along with everyone else who needs our prayers. Okay, Matthew 25. There's a little verse that someone wrote about Matthew 25 that I think is really good. It's not necessarily in the scripture, but it's just cute. And it says, your talent is God's gift to you. What you do with it is your gift back to God. And we can never get even because we can never do enough to get even with God for all the blessings that He's given us. But that's a wonderful way to start Matthew 25, isn't it? Let's look at what Matthew 25, 14 through 30 says. This is going to be the parable of the three servants. We started Matthew 25 last week, and we were talking about the bridesmaids. There were 10 bridesmaids, and 5 of them were foolish, and 5 of them were wise. And what Jesus was telling in that parable was to be sure and just be wise and be ready. And what he's talking to them about at that time was readiness. Now, who's he talking to? He's talking to his disciples. But there's a universal lesson in every one of the things that Jesus teaches. And so let's look at what 25, 14 through 30 talks about, if you want to turn there in your Bible. And I'm going to read it to you, and then we're going to discuss it just for a few minutes. It says in verse 14, again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of the man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. Let me remind you, he's talking to his disciples, and Jesus is getting ready to go away, isn't he? And we know he's going to come back. So in this story, and he's talking about the master, he's talking about the servants. Of course, Jesus is our master. Of course, we are his servants. And so we are to serve him while he's gone, right? And so this lays the groundwork for what this story is really going to be about. He gave 5 bags of silver to one. Now, I'm reading New Living Translation version of the Bible, but it's going to read talent in some of your versions, like King James. It probably is called talent there, and it's not necessarily talking about talents that we have. That's how I'm going to discuss it this morning. But a talent during that time was a weight, and so the talent, the value of it was going to be based on what it was weighing. So just know that in this case, it's referring to silver because Bible scholars say it was most likely silver that was weighed most of the time with the talent, but that doesn't mean that's exactly what it was. He gave 5 bags of silver to one. He gave 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last one. Now listen to this. He divided it in proportion to their abilities, and then he left, okay? The servant who received the 5 bags of silver began to invest the money and earned 5 more. That told us right there the servant who received the most got busy. He went to work. He found out how to invest his master's money and how to earn back 5 more bags. Okay, now The servant who got 2 bags of silver also went to work. Notice we're talking about work ethic here. And he earned 2 more bags. But the servant who received the 1 bag of silver, he dug a hole in the ground and he hid his master's money. Now, when I first read this, and this has been years ago when I first read it, but I remember thinking, well, at least the guy didn't lose it. At least the guy didn't spend it. At least the guy did something with it that he could find it when the master came back. Now, that was how I initially read this. So if you did that too, just know you're not alone. That is not what this parable is talking about. It's not talking about just taking what you get and preserving it. It's talking about work ethic. It's talking about using what you're given. Let's go on. So the master comes back. This is in verse 19. After a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give an account of how they had used his money. The servant who had been entrusted with 5 bags of silver came forward with 5 more and said, Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest in. I have earned 5 more bags. The master was full of praise. Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. The servant who had received the 2 bags of silver came forward and said, Master, you gave me 2 bags, and I invested them, and I've earned 2 more. The master said, Well done, my good and faithful servant. You've been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate. I want you to get the trend here when you are providing a service for the Lord, when we're serving Him. You notice he doesn't just say, okay, well, good and faithful servant, you did a good job, so I want you to just go sit over there in the corner and just, play video games. You're done because, you have fulfilled your responsibility. Notice he didn't do that. Notice what he did is give them more responsibility because they're growing what their service was. They're growing. We are growing our talent when we're using it. Okay. Now, this next part I call condemnation of the buried talent. In verse 24, then the servant with the 1 bag of silver came and said, Master, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. Now, when you read that, you think, Now, let's look at how he appears to the 3rd servant in contrast to how he appeared to the first 2 servants. I mean, they were joyful when he came back. They were happy to come to him. You notice they came to him and they said, look, this is what we did with what you gave us. Yeah, but the servant with the 1 bag of silver came and said, Master, I knew you were a harsh man. Now, guys, I want you to just compare this to sometimes we think about God as being the big meanie on the clouds. He's a big bully, and he's going to get us if we don't do things the right way. So this is how this 3rd servant is perceiving his master. He's saying, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. Now, whether or not this man did this, that was the perception of the servant. And if you are a very hard worker, then people will go out and continue to work and do things for you that you don't have to do yourself, that they'll harvest crops for you. Now, I want you to put this in the context of your Christianity, and you're working for Jesus. When you're working very hard and you are Jesus Christ, the Lord and Master of the earth, people are supposed to be out harvesting crops for you. Now, verse 25, he says, I was afraid. Remember that. I was afraid I would lose your money. You ever been afraid you would lose something and so you put it up and you can't find it? That actually happened to me, and it's been many years ago, and it taught me a very good lesson, and I've not done it again, thank God. I hope I don't. But most of you know that for many, many years that I have counted the contribution. And one Sunday we came home and I had the bag, and we were getting ready to go out on the lake because we had visitors from Kentucky. I hid the bag before we left the house. Guess what? I couldn't find it when we came back because I was in such a hurry. I forgot where I put it. So, I understand this guy. He was afraid, I was afraid that somehow I would lose that money. So I hid it. So when I came back from the lake, I couldn't find it. I spent 3 days praying and asking God to show me where that money was. And it's so funny that on Wednesday I came in and I slammed the refrigerator door because I was trying to catch it because I had something in my hands, and I just kind of pushed and slammed it, and the money bag fell off the top of the refrigerator. And I said, thank you, Lord, because you've shown me what I have lost, and I haven't lost it again. I've been much more thoughtful. But now this gentleman here said, well, I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. And look, here's your money back. But the master replied, you wicked and lazy servant. If you knew I had harvested crops I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you just deposit my money in the bank? At least I would have gotten some interest on it. We don't think sometimes that they had banks during that time. They absolutely did. Then he ordered, take the money from this servant and give it to the one with 10 bags of silver. So he took the one from the one who had done the least, and he gave it to the one who had done the most. Because, have you ever heard that old saying, if you ever want anything done, ask a busy person? Because busy people get things done, and people who aren't so busy, they don't often get things done. Well, the Lord knows who's working. He knows who has the work ethic. And so he gives that talent to the one that he knows is going to use it. Verse 29, to those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But for those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. Now throw this useless servant into outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Okay, so when we look at this, let's think about it from the standpoint of the talents that we're given, the gifts that we're given by God. And God gives different people different gifts, and he does give all of us a gift. But guys, it's like a use it or lose it deal. If you use it, you're going to grow your talent and you're going to be greater in the service to the Lord. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it. It's going to go away. And here's what's told to us. You will be cast into outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. If you don't work for the Lord when you have a chance to work for the Lord, if you don't take even the smallest gift that he's given you and you try to grow it and you try to use it. Jeremy talks a lot about using our spiritual gifts. And, why? Why doesn't God just say, okay, I'm going to write it on the sky. Beth, it'll get busy. You need to be doing this. Or why doesn't God just say, all right, all you people who are suffering, I'm going to just make you well right now. Nobody has to pray. Nobody has to take food. Nobody has to care. Nobody has to call. Why doesn't God just do that? Here's why. He's so thoughtful. It's about us. We're told that we're transformed. And when we are given gifts that we use to glorify God, then we grow. We grow as Christians. That's how we change. When we are working for the Lord, it becomes an internal thing, that we grow and we become better people and better Christians. And it's something that's internal. It's not something that's external that we can do or can be done to us. It's a change of heart, guys. That's the reason why we're supposed to work with the talents that we're given. You know, in 1 Peter 4:10, it says, God has given each of you a gift from his great variety of spiritual gifts. Use them well to serve one another. Oh, serve one another. So I thought we're supposed to be serving God. Well, you know what? In the lesson next week, he's going to address this very thing. When you do this for any of these, even the least of these, my brethren, you have done it to me. So if you're wondering, how do I serve God? What can I do? How can I be a better person? How can I improve my talents? How can I grow them instead of bury them in the ground? Serve someone that needs your help. And you are serving him when you are serving them. And that is going to be the lesson next week. There's one other thing I want to discuss this morning, and then we need to get busy and get to the church house. Look at the perspective of the three servants. The two that came to him, they're celebrating with him because they joyfully came to him and said, oh, look, we've doubled your money. We've doubled these talents. You know, guys, when we use our talents, we double our talents. We continue to grow. We continue to see avenues how we can serve him when we really get in there and get busy. But, you know, this third one, it says there that he's fearful. He says, oh, you're a harsh man. You know, if we think of God as that big meanie up on the cloud, then we're probably not going to serve him because we're scared of him. But here's what 1 John 4:18 tells us. John tells us that love overcomes fear. Such love has no fear. When we love Christ, we don't have the kind of fear where we just want to hide from him, because perfect love expels all fear. If we are afraid, it is for fear of punishment. You see, that third servant, he was afraid he would lose it and he would get punished. Here's the deal. When just God gives us one talent and he expects us to use it, and we use it and we try and we do everything we can to serve him, but in fact we feel like we failed because we didn't do enough, he knows you tried. He knows you tried. There's a difference in trying and failing and never trying, digging a hole and burying it in the ground. But when we have fear, it's because we fear the punishment, which is what the third servant feared. And this shows that we have not fully experienced his perfect love. Wow, can I relate to this? When I was a little girl, to me, and we'd read the stories about, you know, in the Old Testament where God was punishing his people because they were so wayward, they were so sinful, they were worshiping idols. He had given them everything. They were giving him nothing. And he was punishing them. And you think, oh my goodness, what a meanie he is. And you fear him. But when you go through life and you experience the love that he showers on you, the blessings he showers on you, your home, your children, your grandchildren, your church, your spouse, when everyone is living a Christian life and trying so hard to serve him, and you look around and you thank him for those blessings, that's perfect love. And once you've experienced his perfect love, the fear goes away because you know you're right in his eyes when you try your best, when you have the work ethic. Guys, I hope this is a great Sunday. And I'm telling you, it's a beautiful day. Get up and come to church. Thanks for joining me for Sunday School. And next week we'll be talking about a continuation of Matthew 25. I'll see you then.